Hello and welcome. This is Joseph Nicolini, Director of Financial Aid at the Hofstra North Shore Ledgely School of Medicine. And this module is entitled Budgeting and Money Management, What If I Don't? And essentially what this is a culmination of two other modules that you can find on the financial literacy portion of the Financial Aid website. One which speaks specifically to budgeting, and the other to money management. And what this shows is really a little bit of what happens if you fail to budget and manage your money. So, this module covers a little bit of everything. We'll revisit the budgeting and money management modules. We'll revisit unnecessary expenses. We'll revisit the credit card concept. And we'll talk about the long-term financial implications after medical school. A lot of these slides will look familiar to you as we've taken them from other modules, again, to create one summary or all-encompassing module that really captures the total expense that you as a medical student potentially stand to incur should you choose to ignore some of these hidden expenses. So this goes back to the developing a budget module, and we talked about the failure to adequately develop a budget and what that means when you compare it to the cost of attendance. So just to kind of recap here, this particular student borrowed $2,300 more than they needed to, and again, $2,300 over 4 years equates to a little over $9,000. That $9,368 borrowed at 6.8% really equates to $14,000, a little over $14,000, of which $5,000 is interest. Going back to the money management module, this was an example that we used using some common account related fees for checking and savings accounts. Again, to recap, this particular student, this example that we used depicted a student that did not look for a checking account that was free. So what happened was this student incurred a monthly fee of $14, and along with this account came an overdraft fee of $35, a return check fee of $50, and we walked through the costs. So this equates to $168 a month in maintenance fees. In monthly maintenance fees over the course of a year, which is $672 during medical school. There was some mismanagement here, so at the end of each semester, this particular student lost track of what was in his or her account, overdrafted 3 times, and this equated to $420 during medical school. And then in similar fashion, this particular student bounced the rent check 3 times by failing to really monitor his or her account, which cost this student $300 during medical school. And the grand total again was a little over almost $1,400 that this student incurred just by not paying attention to what was in his or her account. We talked in previous modules about ATMs, automated teller machines, and the fees that you can stand to incur here. Again, the average ATM fee at a non-branch ATM fee in the New York metro area is about $2.70 per transaction. We looked at what this means, what this translates to. If you visit a non-branch ATM twice a year, this is the same as really spending $5.40 per week, over $20 per month, over $100 per term, over $800 during medical school, simply by visiting a non-branch ATM. And this is the cost just to access the money that you've put in the bank. And what we see over here is that if you're borrowing this money, if you're borrowing to cover your living expenses, you're already paying an origination fee and an interest fee, interest to borrow this money. So at 6.8% over the course of the life of a loan, this actually equates to over almost $1,000 just to take your money out of the bank. Again, this should look familiar if you've recently sat through the other modules. The percentage, it costs you $2.50 to withdraw, and this is an example, to withdraw $20, $40, $100, $200. It doesn't matter what you take out of an ATM. If you're being charged a fee, that same fee is charged no matter how much. So again, if you must visit a non-branch ATM, don't use it to take out $20. You'll be charged 12% of that $20 just to take the money out of your account, which is not necessary. Here's the example of those common consumer goods that we looked at. We're not going to go through this in detail again. If you go to our Managing Your Money in Medical School module, you'll hear me talk about this in great detail. But essentially, what we'll go to here is the totals at the bottom. Oops, sorry about that. And you can see the total cost of all of these unnecessary expenses amounted to about $5,300. And you can see that $5,300, if this money is borrowed, you're really looking at over $2,000 in interest, and the total cost far exceeding $7,000. So again, an important note: if you're borrowing money to fund your educational expenses. You shouldn't be buying things that are included on this list, but I use it for the purpose of this example. We've spoken about credit cards. They become incredibly dangerous and financially senseless when they're mismanaged. It's important to get a credit card through your bank. It allows you to easily monitor your account and track your expenses. And again, credit cards both negatively and positively affect your personal credit. It's very difficult to establish personal credit without a credit card. So keep in mind that credit cards aren't all bad. They're actually quite good when used properly. Here's that example again. We're not going to go through it in total detail, but we'll take a look at these expenses really quickly. It's a student example. This credit card has a 19% interest rate. Here you can see that the student charged books in the summer of the first year. That cost about $1,500. The student used the card to purchase a few things for the new place, which you shouldn't do. There's no financial aid to cover this here. And then down here you can see that being that the student didn't budget properly, he or she ran out of money, and this cost the student about $250 because they needed to buy food. So the total credit card balance at the close of the semester, if you recall, was a little over $2,300. And again, what this means in terms of interest, let's say the student did take the money out of financial aid or they had another source of income, and they paid back about $70 a month. This is actually paid off over 3.5 years, and this doesn't account for any other items that are charged beyond the first semester. And you can see that this $2,350, even though it was paid off before medical school has ended, there was $1,000 in interest charged. And again, this example down here was that if you take this amount and you only pay off the minimum, which is $47, and you continue to pay off only the minimum, it will take you 25 years to pay off this balance, and the balance will just accrue interest, and you're looking at really spending over $6,000 in interest alone. So it all adds up. If you isolate each one of these examples, it doesn't seem that terrible. So you spent $311 on a pair of $225 jeans. You'll live, right? Right. However, if you examine all of these examples as a whole, you'll see that it adds up during the 4 years. So recall, we have that example where we didn't modify our student budget, and we've spent $14,000. We've borrowed $14,000 that we didn't need to, of which $5,000 is interest. We've ignored ATM fees. We have $1,000 that we've accrued here in ATM fees just to access your money. We bought all those unnecessary items. I took out the Honda. I know that was a bit of an extravagant example, but taking out the Honda and looking at the other unnecessary items that we've purchased, we have spent $7,000, of which $2,000 is interest. We've carried that credit card debt from the first semester, again, not charging another thing throughout medical school, paying off a little more than the monthly minimum, getting this debt resolved before medical school is over, which is great, has still cost you $1,000 in interest. And then we've ignored those checking account fees that we could have avoided if we just went to a bank that did not have any account fees associated with maintaining an account there. So all of these add up. And over the course of 4 years, during medical school, this particular student has spent over $27,000, has borrowed $27,000 that they didn't need to. This could have been avoided. And $10,000, over $10,000 of this, is interest or unnecessary fees that have nothing associated with it. There's nothing attached to it. The $10,000, there's nothing to show for. So we found that this person just spent over $27,000 during 4 years of medical school. Some important points. This is above and beyond the cost of medical school, the cost to borrow for actual expenses related to your education. This doesn't account for any income-based repayment plan, which again will drive interest up and ultimately the amount that you have to repay. This does not account for any additional credit card charges. So this is just using that first semester example. This doesn't account for any additional unnecessary expenses. We had some pretty lavish expenses in our chart, and some pretty crazy things like going to Bermuda for a weekend. So this doesn't account for anything else that particular student may have spent their money on. And again, it captures over $10,000 in expenses with absolutely nothing to show for. Just interest rates, just fees, and you have nothing to show for at the end of the day. So according to the AAMC, an average first-year resident salary is a little over $50,000. So your take-home pay after health insurance, after retirement contributions, will actually be closer to $29,000. What does this mean? This means that you have pretty much worked as a first-year resident and didn't get paid. Some take-home points. These examples only take into consideration very simple scenarios. It doesn't take into consideration any credit card problems that you may have run into. It doesn't take into consideration income-based repayment or forbearance, which again drives interest up. Pay close attention to where your money is going. Again, a common theme through all of these modules. Borrow as little as possible while in medical school. You'll have plenty of time later in life to pay for those things that you feel you deserve. Don't pay fees that you can avoid. We talked about some ways to avoid these credit card fees and these checking account fees. It's really not necessary. Don't buy any unnecessary items, especially with borrowed money. We talked about how you can't do that anyway. Don't rack up credit card debt. Certainly don't carry a balance. We've talked about the implications, the financial implications of carrying a balance. And be smart about your money. Every decision that you make in medical school with respect to money has long-term implications. So here's my contact information. You'll see this at the end of every module. If you have any questions about this presentation or anything related to financial aid, please feel free to give me a call. I'll be happy to walk you through it. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy your day.